Yeah.
All right, everyone. We're very happy to have you on Puzzle Pieces Together podcast tonight, where we have a wonderful woman who thinks a lot like I do. And she is going to tell us a lot of information on how we can have a better life. Her name is Lisa, and I'm hoping I say this right. Is it Shimmerhorn?
You did great. It took
I
me a
should have
year.
asked you before that. Why is that your married name? Well, anyway, I hope I say this right. Anyway, but she is wonderful, and I want to read a very short bio about her. So before we get started, so Lisa has 20 years of experience as a transformational leader, an author of a best-selling book, "In Every Belief Is a Lie," an expert in the field of human behavior, leadership, and personal development. She's an award-winning speaker and has spoken at Harvard, Columbia University as a featured BLU talk speaker. Lisa also has been outspoken in the truther community and has spoken on Lewis Herm's Truth Tour, which is where we met, as a certified hypnotherapist and master practitioner of neuro-linguistic programming. She helps people get to the root cause of their issues quickly and live an authentic life. Lisa is also trained as a why coach and helping people discover their why and purpose. So, how are you doing, Lisa?
I'm awesome. I'm buried in snow right now.
Are you really? Oh, that sounds nice.
It's actually beautiful right now, but everyone's skiing, but I've been working too much.
Well, you like your work, right?
I love my work. Yeah.
How can you ski? You skiing? Do you ski at this? I wish I could right now, but no?
Yeah, I do ski, except I fractured two bones in my leg last year on the ski mountain, so I'm a little nervous to get out there again. I have some mindset work to do on that.
Seems like we always have some kind of mind work.
Exactly.
Okay, well, we're going to dive right into your book because I love the title, Every Belief is a Lie. So explain a little bit what you mean by that.
So, I discovered that we are all programmed. And not only just when we are born, most people think that babies are like these clean slates and they come in and as parents, we just screw them up. And what I discovered that that's maybe the case in somewhat, but what I discovered is that we can inherit beliefs through our ancestors going back many generations through the science of what they call epigenetics. So we can carry those beliefs all the way through. If you have an ancestor who experienced the Holocaust or the Depression, and you're walking around in this life with not trusting people or fear of scarcity, and you're like, I have no reason to have this, and you want to look at patterns because patterns occur in families as well. So I find that I'm a bit of a detective in trying to find out if it's stuff from what you've dealt with in this life or if it's inherited. And for those who might be interested in the metaphysical part, is I do past life regressions as well. And we can have past lives impact us, and a combination of all three and then some. So what I discovered is that a belief that we can take on beliefs at any point in our life, but Dr. Bruce Lipton likes to say that we are basically programmed pretty much by the time we're 5 to 7 years old.
Yeah.
There's a lot more that happens as we get older, but those early years are really critical. And so the meaning of money can happen there, what love is, if a child is neglected, or they suddenly believe that food is money, all of these things are religion. If you think about religion, in a lot of cases, religion can dictate who you marry, how you dress, the kind of food you eat. And we are community-driven people. So if you try to go outside those belief systems, you get ousted from the community, which is terrifying. So people will hold on to beliefs because they don't know what else to do because they don't want to be alone. And this can lead to people really struggling in their lives because they start to live a lie.
Well,
And yeah,
oh, so go ahead. Sorry, I don't want to interrupt you.
no, I've just got my dog here. No, she doesn't know what she's here. So if you hear her.
I'm gonna interrupt this interview here. Okay, well, you know what? You said that it's important to identify and release the lies. Because when you say a belief is a lie, it's because it's just something that's been taught to us and it's not necessarily our true soul thoughts, or is that pretty much why it would be a lie?
Exactly. So it's a belief that someone told us. For instance, in my own story, I talk about this a lot. As a child, I had undiagnosed learning disabilities. So I remember being in kindergarten and everyone could read, they could do their alphabet, they could do their numbers, and I was lost. And so every summer I spent in summer school. And so I took on the belief that I wasn't smart. And because I didn't have the foundation of being able to read and do my math, that perpetuated the belief system so that it kept getting ingrained the older I got. And so I just started giving my power away to people and circumstances, anyone who had authority over me, because I didn't believe that I was smart. And I got depressed. I just didn't feel like I had a purpose. And so that lie that I wasn't smart really ran my life through a huge part of my life. And it wasn't until I really had a breakdown. I was 38 years old and had a nervous breakdown, really struggling with a lot of my beliefs. And, people will refer to that as the dark night of the soul because it also was one of my greatest gifts. Because in that place of suddenly realizing that I couldn't live the way I was, it forced me to look at the world from a different place. And then I was going from therapist to therapist to therapist several times a week, and I wasn't getting anywhere. By the time someone suggested a hypnotist, and I was like, a hypno, what? What am I gonna do with a hypnotist? Don't they make you quack like a duck? And I was desperate. So I tried it and I realized that working with the unconscious mind took me to the root cause so quickly that I saw my life starting to change. And when I did that, I started to learn all of these other techniques. So I went on to study something called NLP, Neuro Linguistic Programming, which is the study of excellence and using language. Now, and I know, I'm sure you're aware of this. NLP can also be used as a form of manipulation and brainwashing as well, when it's done in a negative way. Every single presidential speechwriter is trained in NLP. So this is another way that people get programmed.
Right.
So it needs to be done, this work needs to be done in integrity.
Okay.
Because when not, it can be used in really diabolical ways.
I'm glad you said that because I know some people, when they hear the hypnotherapist or the NLP, they're like, nope, nope, especially if it's MK Ultra.
Right. And what's interesting is until I was part of the Truth Tour and really saw you and Kathy O'Brien, I didn't know anything about MK Ultra. And so that was never anything that was discussed with me. So I always was taught with hypnosis, I can't make anyone do anything they don't want to do. And so what people need to understand is MK Ultra is a completely different thing.
Yeah,
Completely.
it is. But when you're doing the hypnotizing of someone, they're fully in control and in charge. Is that correct?
Right.
You're just
Yes.
helping them reach the unconscious root issue.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to share about that part?
Well, it's so you can, I call it time travel for your emotions, right? Because I can't change what happened. I can just change the way you feel about it. Now, my understanding is with MK Ultra, you can actually distort someone's actual reality.
Right.
Correct?
Yes.
So it's a whole different thing, and the process is very different.
And yes, because I mean, they're starting just in the womb to create your belief system through the MK Ultra. They want you to believe everything that's based on Satan. So they're already teaching you what beliefs you have to have in the womb. all the way up, because like you said, up and through 7 is so important
Right.
to them, because they know what happens in our unconscious mind, and so they take advantage of it.
So my question for you is, because you say they teach in the womb. Now, my understanding, and I've hypnotized people back to the womb. And the fetus can actually experience what the mother is going through.
Yes.
So that programs the child. So if the mother is going through a situation where they are afraid to bring this child into this world, then the fetus, the baby, will be born feeling unwanted. And so the child will come into the world unwanted, correct?
Absolutely. Yep. Even before I started working with MK Ultra survivors, I just worked with people that had complex trauma, and we would go back into the womb, and everything I've learned about the baby in the womb, they know everything that's happening to mom. They know their outside influence, like if dad's yelling at mom, like they pick up everything. And so and it goes just from the beginning of time. It's not like this 3, 4, 5 month crap. That's a big fat lie. They're trying to teach people about babies. They're not a real baby. That's not true. I've had so many clients, we've went back to the womb, but if we just went to MK Ultra survivors, they definitely begin teaching in the womb different beliefs they want them to have. And they do that with demons, unfortunately, and a lot of abuse to the mom. So the mom goes through a lot of torture, which, hurts the baby. And anyway, we won't get into that, but that's a big, long thing they
Well,
do.
what's interesting, and I even had this situation today. There's levels, like there's demons, like you think about, doing exorcisms, and people do with really evil beings. And then there are other entities that can attach to you. I call them hitchhikers, which aren't necessarily evil. They're just along for the ride, because sometimes people will die instantly and the soul doesn't know that it's dead, or there's unfinished business, and they will attach and then create confusion. So that's more the work that I do. Have I come upon people who are possessed? Yes, and that's way above my pay grade.
That's
I have a
okay.
friend, Rose, who I'll call and go, "Oh my God, get this thing off of me."
I know. When you start going down that road, you need to know how to protect yourself, because sometimes it can get really heavy. There's no doubt about it. And you're right, there's many levels of all that. But unfortunately, if you do help a survivor, you got to be aware that you're going to be dealing with that without exception. So
Exactly, exactly. And that's what people don't understand is in the MK Ultra, there's so many levels, because people are like, well, why can't you just snap out of it, or why can't you control? I mean, I just
right.
watched someone, I don't recall her name, but they actually showed that there's colors like that are used to trigger people on the television and the Super Bowl, and
Yep.
what is done on the Super Bowl with the halftime, the commercials, certain colors that are brought in are predetermined programs, correct?
Absolutely. That's what they do. Even you remember Biden, I always say, when he had that red behind him, that was a secret message to the MK Ultra survivors. So they're always doing that. And when you hear a bunch of celebrities or politicians get out there and say the same thing, they're giving a message to those under mind control. So it's a little scary at times, but you know what? The more of us realize it, like you didn't realize this probably 5 years ago, that they're out constantly giving messages. Now people are waking up to it, so it's harder for them to do the things in secret. So
Yes. And what I find is, what people need to understand is, the whole purpose of the 24-hour news cycle was to create repetition and brainwash people. Because when the average person hears information from authority over and over and over again, it becomes true, even if it doesn't make sense. And the idea of being put in a place of fear, what happens is, our brains go into this fight or flight, And when they go into fight or flight, the blood goes to the hands and the feet to run. And then the brain is left with grabbing onto whatever makes you feel safe first.
Okay.
So the important thing for people to realize is that when you're being kept in fear all the time, you are susceptible. That is a form of programming. You are susceptible to taking in information that may not be yours. So the key is to disseminate, what are my belief systems and what is mine and what isn't mine? And there's a blur to that, right? There's a really hard process. It's a hard thing to figure out what's really mine, because our culture will come in and say, well, this is how you're supposed to behave. This is the way you're supposed to dress. This is who you're supposed to marry. And then you're like, well, do I really believe this? Or this is what I need to do to stay in my family or stay in a place where I'm accepted? Because accepted, when you think outside the box and you start to question authority and question things, there's consequences to it.
That's right. There is in every family, especially.
That's what we black sheep are for.
I know. I think you were one, weren't you? Okay. I knew I liked you. Okay. So I want to ask you, like you said, there's a way to identify like what's yours and what's not yours. How do you do that?
You know what's interesting? When you close your eyes and you go into the feeling, either your body knows. You don't have to know here. Your body knows it's a feeling, right? So I know you use EFT, the emotional freedom technique. I've been taught that too, and I used to use it as a tapping technique on your meridians to release blockages. I had a 85-year-old mentor, Dr. Al Tatarunas, with a ponytail and drove a Mercedes convertible. And he taught me something called the emotional release method, which is where you close your eyes, identify where you feel something in your body, and then it's a really simple technique called where you repeat, should I let it go? Yes. Could I let it go? Yes. When? Now. And as you repeat that, you get yourself, the idea is to get to a place of neutrality. Because, and I use this when people are under hypnosis. I don't have to put someone in a state of hypnosis in order to do the emotional release method. It just makes it easier because people are more relaxed. But by using that, it's the same as the EFT tapping, where you're getting to the root cause by identifying these feelings, releasing it, and getting to neutrality. And Dr. Al called me one day and he said, I need your help. My daughter, so he was in his 80s, his daughter was 60 years old and fell at the subway station and hit her head really hard. And he said, I was up all night worrying. And then I thought to myself, how is this helping her? And how is it helping me? And I decided it wasn't, so I released it. And then he was really struggling with the idea of, releasing the need to worry. But then he said, by me releasing the emotion around it, I can be fully present. I can listen to the doctors. I can process the information better. And that way I can make a better decision for her health and well-being. So understanding that emotions drive us in most things that we do, because we get triggered with emotion from childhood, from all the food can be a trigger, smells can be a trigger, words, shows on TV will bring us back to memories. So all of these things can be triggers. And if you can get them to a state of neutrality, that way you can be an adult and not be in that child, that younger part of you that is, really triggered right now, or having a memory that is related to it that may cause you to get in a fight with someone. And they're like, why are you having this conversation with me? I didn't do anything. And they're like, well, you reminded me of so-and-so who did this to me.
Right. Yes. Well, haven't we all done that? I remember we did it horribly when I first got married, because my husband wasn't the bad man. It was all the other men before him. And so I took out a lot on him that had nothing to do with him. And I was just being triggered by something he said. So anyway, we all do that. And
But that, you know what? You must be married to a really wonderful man, because
it's,
everyone who's watched this and followed you knows a great deal of what you've been through. And that he's taken this on together, you two as a team doing this.
yeah, it's been
extraordinary.
hard. It's been very, very hard. But we've worked hard at it because we went to so many ways of healing to help us, and I don't think we would have made it if we didn't keep working on ourselves. And getting help with whatever way. Just to clarify, I actually don't use EFT. It's called tapping.
Okay.
It's a different version of tapping, but we can just say tapping.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
just a different version. Okay, so I'm going to have you explain why. I looked on your website and it's a why coach. What's a why coach?
Okay, so for people who are familiar with Simon Sinek, he did a TED Talk, and he wrote a book called Start with Why. And it was all about what motivates people and gets people really excited with their day. It's why we get up in the morning. It's everything. So this fellow Gary Sanchez saw him speak, saw Simon speak and said, "Please, I want to know my why." And Simon said to him, "I don't teach people how to find their why. I tell them why it's important." So Gary was a dentist, very unhappy in his life, and he said, "There's got to be something more to this." And he went on to interview thousands of people over 10 years and discovered that there's actually 9 whys. So someone had given me this discovery. It's 10 minutes and you take it, and then it came up with my why, and it changed my life, because going back to being a child, not doing well in school, not feeling like I fit in, didn't understand what my purpose was, and I just thought I was stupid. What I found out was my why is challenge. So I challenge conventional thinking and think outside the box. So my brilliance is not the ability to memorize large amounts of information and repeat it. I have high emotional intelligence. So I'm an outside the box problem solver. So what they came up with is something called your why operating system. So you have your why, your how, and your what. So my why is I challenge conventional thinking and think outside the box. And I guarantee you that you and most of your viewers have some form of challenge high up in their top 3.
Okay.
And it's why we become black sheep, not only in our families, but in the world, because we're misunderstood. And so we had to create our own community of people who were misunderstood.
That's quite a few, actually.
To feel like we fit in.
We fit in with all the other black sheep.
Exactly.
But we're not black sheep. We're just
No.
not able to do what everyone else has done when it doesn't make sense.
Yes. And I just saw something really cool, and I wish I had it in front of me, but they referred to it as the black wolf. And it's the black wolf that comes in and severs and heals all of the ancestral trauma and lets go of all of the belief systems, and then resets everything for their family lineage.
I like that.
Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah, that is. I like that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So with the why operating system, you get a how and a what. So your why is the emotional part of how you function through your day. Your how is how you do that. So my how is better way. I find a better way and share it. And then what I bring is the ability to make sense out of complicated situations and problems. So being an out of the box problem solver, that's why I look at all these cutting edge techniques and things that are not traditional. And for someone who's a challenge, if someone ever tried to call me normal, which no one ever has, but if they did, it would be an insult for me.
Definitely not normal. You're unique in a great way.
Exactly. Thank you.
So the why coach is this is what you do though to help people that come see you is to figure out this.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the, yeah, sorry. It's the first thing that I do is I'll have someone take this assessment because it really helps me get to the root of someone's issues quickly. So
Okay.
there's 9 whys, and so off the top of my head, I can go through them pretty quickly. There's contribute, and these are the people who want to make an impact on the world. They want to contribute to society. So I mentioned challenge already, the people who think outside the box. Better way, their challenge and better way people are visionaries. They're often the entrepreneurs, they're the ones, the startup companies, they're the leaders. Then you have, as I said, make sense. They're the problem solvers, the detectives. So they often come up with the answers before other people do. Then you have right way. Right way people create structure. So they want things that are repeatable. Something like accounting, economics, not engineering, things where you need to create processes that are repeatable. You have simplify. Simplifiers are the people who can take a 4-page, email and break it down to 4 bullet points. And they also love to create structure. They're your organizers. Then you have clarifiers. Clarifiers ask lots of questions because they want to make sure that you are understood and that they are understood. They probably grew up in a household where they weren't heard. Let's see, what else off the top of my head? Trust. These are people who are trust people. They can do a deal on handshake. They are really extraordinary in the fact that they will research the heck out of something to make sure that they are the trusted source. But don't cross one of them because they don't give you second chances. They're done with you.
Okay.
And then you have mastery. These are people who research the heck out of everything, but they don't just do one thing. They research everything and they love it and they're fearless in learning new things. They love reading encyclopedias for fun. I'm not sure if I hit all 9, but just to give you an idea.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, that's really
Yeah,
great. And then you said, I'm just going to repeat your statement. Fear is an illusion. It is a false evidence appearing to be real.
right.
Can you explain that?
I find that my fear is always greater than actually doing something. So for instance, and I tell this story in the book, it's the opening of my book. I was married for 29 years. I spent the last 10 years really realizing that we just didn't have anything in common anymore, but I had this tremendous fear of being alone. I also had a fear of walking on fire, so I decided to take a fire walking program. That's what
Okay.
challenge people do,
That's right.
okay?
They challenge. Okay.
They challenge.
Did you do it? Did you accomplish it?
So I took this week-long firewalk facilitation, which started out with breaking arrows from your throat, bending a 10-foot piece of rebar from my throat, and I have that piece of rebar. It was also walking on 4 feet of broken glass, those wine bottles. And every night we walked 7 to 10 feet of red hot coals. And in order to graduate, I had to walk 40 feet of red hot coals. And I was terrified. You want to know what a whiny bitch sounds like? You had to listen to me for an entire week whine about how I was going to have my feet amputated and how I was going to die and how I was never going to make it.
Oh my
But some,
gosh.
but
Okay.
something kept me there. And then the moment before I was ready to walk and I was terrified, one of the fellow people in my class looked at me and said, how much fire have you walked this week? And I'm like, well, 7 to 10 feet every night. He said, well, we've been here for 6 nights, so you've walked over 40 feet, haven't you? And I said, yes. And he said, so you've already walked 40 feet, so this should be a piece of cake. Go. And something in my mind clicked and I just went. I glided. I don't even remember the walk. I remember there was a bell at the other end that I rang and I just stood there in disbelief, along with everyone else who listened to me all week.
That is, well, that whole story shows that we are unbelievably powerful And it's just our fear that holds us back.
Right, because as soon as I got rid of my fear, I did not have a single scorch on my foot. I can't explain it. I will never be able to explain it. As a matter of fact, walking on the broken glass, I actually enjoy it because
Okay,
it's the most present you will ever be in your entire life.
really.
You have to feel every single part of the bottom of your feet and move the glass around so that you don't get cut.
Oh, wow. Okay. Is that Tony Robbins?
It wasn't through Tony Robbins. It's actually the company, Sundor, who trains Tony Robbins and all the people who work for him. So
Wow.
they're the overarching training, people. But what it did for me was I got home and I knew that if I could do that week, that grueling week, that I could do anything. And that gave me the courage and the strength to have that conversation with my ex-husband. And it still took a few months because we were unraveling and trying to figure out because, 30 years, 29 years is a long time.
Yep.
And we loved our family.
Right.
But we decided that it was the right thing to do, but I never would have had the courage to do that if I hadn't taken that walk, if I hadn't had that switch. And that's what happens with working with the unconscious mind, is that it helps you get to the root cause of issues and you can release and work through it. And so you don't have to walk 40 feet of red hot coals
I
to
know.
change
I'm
your
not going to
mind.
ever do that. I'm glad
I'm
you
not
have
doing it
the
again.
experience, but oh my gosh, that would be scary. But I love how you did it and it changed something inside. I think we all need to find whatever that is. I mean, this is a totally different story, but um, so many things kept being done to me and taken from me. I got to the point concerning the groups and in particular the government that I got to a point where I said, I don't care. You cannot do anything else to me, and I will not be afraid of you because you've already done everything you could possibly do. And there was a point, well, I'm not going to get into it, but there was a point something took place, and it just, from that moment on, it was like, nope, no more. I will not be having any more fear about you. So anyway, we all
Yeah.
have, I think, moments that we have to face. Well,
No, you do. And I've heard that from many people who have gotten to a position of bottoming out, basically. And they're like, there's nothing else for you to take from me.
right.
So it's the giving up. And I like to say it's the surrender. Like I got to that point where I surrendered and I was like, I knew I couldn't live like that anymore. I knew it wasn't right for me. I knew it wasn't right for my ex-husband. And I knew that there was more for me out there that I needed to explore and that I needed to, really explore on my own because I was very young. I was 19 when I met him. I got married at 23. I feel very fortunate. I had an incredible life, raised two beautiful children, and not looking back, and I'm not. And what's interesting is, I dedicated my book. He was one of the people that I dedicated my book to, and people were like, what are you doing? I said, I wouldn't be who I am and where I am today. And so I do a lot of forgiveness work as well.
Okay, what does that entail?
So the forgiveness work, I was part 2 years ago, I was part of a group of, for those of you who've heard of something called Ho'oponopono.
Mhm.
And it's an ancient Hawaiian prayer. Dr. Joe Vitale wrote a book called Zero Limits. And he, in his book, tells a story about Dr. Hugh Lin, who was living in Hawaii. And there was a prison for the criminally insane, and they couldn't keep people there. The attrition for all the people who were working there, it was just crazy. And they had to keep a therapist on staff in order to have federal funding. And they were desperate to hire someone. And so Dr. Hewlin said, I'll take the job, but I don't see patients in person. I just pray over their files. And they're like, you're nuts. So they didn't hire him. And 3 months later, they still didn't have anyone. So out of desperation, they hired him. And slowly over time, they saw that the population in their area were either going to mental health facilities or going back into the regular prison. And he emptied that area out. And so I had friends who studied with Dr. Joe Vitale, and we started a group where we were teaching a meeting every week and doing these techniques. And it's a simple prayer. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. And what happens is people will say, why am I saying I'm sorry to someone who hurt me? They're the one who should say I'm sorry. But if you look at it from a soul level, from a spiritual, look at it from a higher perspective. And by saying this, it's like taking that backpack full of bowling balls that you've been carrying around because resentment is swallowing a pill, a poison, expecting the other person to die. So as long as you hold on to the anger and resentment and all of that, the only person you're hurting is you. So by saying this prayer and letting go of it, miracles start to happen. Because when you get back to the mindset of these blocks, I think about a highway and you want to get to your destination and these giant boulders are in your way. So as you forgive, as you do these prayers and as you release, either using tapping or the emotional release method or somatically, however you decide to do it, this helps you get to your destination. And what it does is it creates the law of attraction. And so for people who don't know what that is, you are a giant, powerful magnet attracting everything to you. And what you're attracting are your thoughts. And more importantly, your unconscious thoughts. So you can say, I want to make $1 million. But if you unconsciously believe that people with money are evil, you're not going to attract it. You will keep repelling it and you will keep sabotaging yourself over and over again. When you release that and then forgive yourself, forgive others for whatever the circumstances were, then your life will change. And what happened was I'd been trying to write a book for 15 years. And I finally sat down and I released all of those beliefs about myself, that who am I to write a book? What do I have to say that hasn't been said before? And all of these negative beliefs. And then I forgave myself and forgave others. And as soon as I did that, the title to my book came to me. And I just started writing nonstop for 5 months. And then within a couple of weeks, the book was published and went bestseller.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
It's the power. It's the complete power. Even for, you can say this is a little thing. I did some forgiveness work and release work. And then I sat down to do my morning meditation and I set an intention. I'm like, I'd love to get into some local newspapers because I love seeing people one-on-one in person, as well as seeing people online. But there's something about that in-person thing that I had missed because I hadn't been seeing as many people in person. 2 hours later, I get a call from a local reporter. I want to do an article on you.
I think I know I've heard you share that and that's just amazing. I mean, like what if somebody said, you know what, I kind of know what my beliefs are, but I honestly don't know why I keep picking this horrible mate, so to speak.
Mhm.
You know, because I've had so many clients that come in and say, I want this amazing man and I want this and that. And then if you get down to the root of why they don't have that amazing man, is because they hate men. They don't want to give up their power. And you find out all these reasons why they're never going to get that because of all the underlying stuff that blocks them. So how does
Well, yeah, there's so many levels in that. And a friend of mine took a class on manifesting your man. And this was something that blew me away. They said, okay, you write a list of all the qualities of the man that you want. And now you're going to focus on that man and attract it. What the other part is that are you the person that man wants to attract, wants to be with?
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Because you could set a certain standard, but if you're still broken and you don't trust because you've been traumatized by men over and over again, then you're going to keep attracting men who keep re-traumatizing you. So the people who you attract in your life are a mirror reflection of how you feel inside. So the first thing you need to do before you look at attracting anyone in your life is look at the type of people you're attracting in your life. And so if you have a lot of people who are you can't trust, or a lot of people who are very dysfunctional or have a lot of addiction issues, whatever it is, patterns that you don't want in your life, when you keep pointing your finger at other people, there's three fingers pointing back at you. So instead of feeling like a victim and looking at the type of people that I'm attracting, I look at what is it in me that I need to shift, change, and heal in order to attract the type of people I really want in my life.
That's very good. I like that. Yeah, because we don't want to look at ourselves. It's so much easier to point fingers to other people instead of what's inside of us. And it is a great mirror of who you pick as a mate, really. I mean, I picked someone who was just as dysfunctional as I was, but he didn't have the same issues. He just was as dysfunctional as I was. But because that's why I said, because we kept working on ourselves, even to this day, we work on ourselves and doing different, modalities to clear up something that comes up. If we didn't do that, we probably would not be together.
Well, and that's the key is number one, you have to share the same values, right?
True.
And so your combined value was, we're going to do everything in our power to make this work, and we're going to work on it together. And we're going to seek outside the box and all these different techniques to make it work.
Yeah.
If you have one person who goes that way and the other person, for whatever reason, isn't willing to do it, is afraid to do it, because this work is not for the lighthearted.
It's not.
It is
So
not.
hard. It's very hard.
Looking in the mirror and seeing your own shadow and doing all this work. I mean, I did this stuff for 25 years. I am not perfect. I still get triggered. I still have circumstances that I'm like, oh, I thought I worked on that. No, it's back again.
But
You know,
what? That's life until we die,
of
because
course.
he's gonna keep refining us and showing us things that we need to work on at a certain time when we're ready. And
Right.
that's the way it's gonna be. We're never gonna be perfected, and we're never gonna be this perfect thing, because that's just not the way it works. And I hope people realize that it's a
But
progress thing.
it is progress, but what I will tell you is I did enough work to get myself to that I have a place of peace that I didn't have
That's true.
before.
Yeah.
And when you have the tools, because, oh my gosh, are there days that I get anxious and scared? Absolutely. And then I know that I have tools. And of course, it's the, shoemaker's children who don't have the shoes. It's like, oh yeah, I forgot to use that on myself. And it's a no-brainer when I'm working with other people, right?
Every practitioner or professional I have talked to, we can help everybody in the world except ourselves. And I think it's because sometimes you actually need somebody, not all the time. There's a lot you can do for yourself with modalities, but sometimes we need somebody on the outside too to just show us a different perspective. It's not always about you trying to fix you. Sometimes you do need help.
Right.
And and that's just, I think, everyone. I remember, you probably would know him, but I'm blanking on his name. He's a very popular hypnotist, and he worldwide. And he told me, he said, Laura, I can help anybody, but I cannot help myself. And, and I just feel that so much. I mean, we can do all the modality stuff and work on ourselves, but once in a while we need to ask for help and not be too prideful. You know what I mean? Like,
Right. Well, in when I studied with people all over the world, and the one thing that kept coming back strongly is we as humans don't have the ability to see ourselves. We can see others. That's why the mirror is so important, because we can see ourselves through others and the circumstances that we're in. And as long as we keep playing victim and blaming others for our problems and circumstances, we'll never get to the root cause of our own issues because we don't take responsibility for them.
right. Yep, that's very true. And I mean, in my case, where there's a lot of MK Ultra survivors, it's very easy to get stuck in the victimhood part of it. But then there's also another part that you have to face, and that's you and being, what you did in the steel. And that's where I will say this, and it's very unfortunate. I pray it's just my experience, but as I've seen a lot of clients with MK Ultra, their background, they seem to get to a point and then they just will not finish looking at what they need to finish looking at to really be free. And that's been real sad to watch that, but it's real difficult too.
One of the most difficult emotions that people have to deal with, in my experience, is shame.
Yes.
And when, especially with MK Ultra, for people to really understand it, you are being forced to do things that you would never do otherwise.
Right.
You're acting out in ways, doing things that are against your will. So when you've caused harm, and it was not a conscious thought, because we are all told that we have free will. So with MK Ultra, your free will is taken away from you. Right? And you're forced to do things that you would never do. And that puts on a tremendous amount of shame, because now your values, your belief system, everything that you believe in is now your walking dichotomy of that. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
And so that would be really hard. Like if I do something bad, I go, oh, my bad, I did that, I'll take responsibility for it. But if I did something that was forced upon me, or not even, I mean, with MK Ultra, do you even always remember the things that you've done?
No, and most of the time you don't remember most of it. And I think God gives us a grace so that we don't have to remember everything, but you do
Right.
have to remember enough so that at least during the process, it took me many, many years, because even though God said, I do not hold you responsible for it because it was not your free will and choice, there is a responsibility still. So I don't want to say that there's not. But it didn't matter, because it still was so against my soul that I couldn't process it. It just took me so long. And I didn't have a lot of modalities at the time either, but that was in the 90s when they didn't have anything. So, or at least I didn't find it.
But since I was part of the Truth Tour, I have met more and more women who have been MK Ultra'd and who have dealt with satanic ritual abuse and beyond. And I will tell you, and I'm actually getting emotional right now, you are the strongest, most courageous people I have ever met in my entire life. And no one gets out of this world unscathed, right? Every single one of us, even people with the best lives, still go through trauma and have all different experiences. But what you experienced and others are to a level that is beyond comprehension. And you and I have talked about this, and I thought of you instantly when Henry Kissinger died. And hmm?
I was like, yes.
And I'm sure that the people who follow you know that he was, your handler, basically. And
Yeah, he was one of them. Yeah.
one of them, yes. And it's also hard to fathom how much evil there is in this world.
And what's the worst thing about him is what he did to stay alive. And that was to have many transplants of children's organs. Like he killed a child so he could have their organs. That's how he stayed
Okay.
alive until 100. And I am not the one that actually, I was told this by someone who was very, very well connected, and knew these people at a certain level of back in the 1990s, early 2000s. And they went after them because they were revealing stuff then. And so that's what this person revealed to me. I actually met on Truth Tour. So, you know, what these people will do to live is, it is horrific. And drinking, the the stuff of, I hate to say it, but you know what I'm talking about.
Right. Yeah.
They're just, what they do to live is very terrible. They're like vampires. They need to suck everything out of everyone, their life energy force, just to breathe, pretty much.
No, it's pure evil. I never really truly understood the extent of evil. I didn't grow up with hell, so I didn't believe in it. I didn't believe in demons, and I used to have this attitude that, well, if I don't believe them, they must not exist. It must
I
not
wish
be
that was
true.
true.
And then I got attacked by one, and I'm like, oh, I guess they are demons out there. And it's not something I ever encourage people, but going back to even what you do is, you are not only unwinding programs, but you're removing demons.
Yes. And that is, because when I work with a survivor, they always have demons with all their programming. And, they like to attack me. And sometimes the parts in that person that are very high up, loyal to Satan, will at some point, if they find out that I know that they exist, they will start attacking me. And that's, you know, I didn't know some of that existed either until this summer. I knew they were going to curse me. That was never a big deal. But some of them, when they're very high up in their training, they can do really bad things. And so I always tell any professional, if you're going to work with survivors of MK Ultra and SRA, you better pray about it, make sure it's right, and then you better have a
Right.
strong relationship with God, or you do not do it, because they will eat you alive. And I mean that.
Yeah.
So, okay, well, we're gonna go back. We'll get off the demons for a second.
Yep.
That seems like to be brought up in every podcast.
Well, you know what? It's something that most people don't know about.
True. I think people are finding out these days more and more, but their greatest desire is to everyone to say they don't exist, because then they get to have free reign.
Free reign.
Okay, I wanted to ask you, I think we kind of know what the inner critic is, but it went along with your five, I think, is how to find your genius,
Mm-hmm.
yes.
So what happens is you talk about those blocks that are in your way.
Mhm.
So in order to find out who you are, you have to know who you aren't. And so it's about chipping away in all of these belief systems and all of these things that are holding you back. And it's layers, right? Because, just saying, just releasing the belief that I didn't think I was smart, there were so many layers within it, and it still pops up. And I still have to deal with it. And I always say, our greatest wounds are our greatest gifts, right? Because you went through what you did, you know it better than anyone. And so therefore, when you heal it, you have the ability to teach it and live it and heal it in ways that no one else can. And I always say, I would rather go to someone who's experienced it than read it in a book, because they know it at such a deep level. And for me, I sought out to become the person I was looking for 20 years ago, because I was going from therapist to therapist, and therapy is, I'm not going to knock it. My daughter's a licensed clinical social worker, and they do amazing work. I could never do what she does. At the same time, I want to help people get to the root cause of their issues,
Yeah.
release them. We have saboteurs. We have our own internal parts that will sabotage us because they think that they're helping us. So when we can talk to that younger part of us, heal it, release and forgive, then that part can fully show up with its gifts, because they're exhausted. For instance, if you have a child who was neglected, or food was loved somehow in the family, either that was, food, you have to eat, clean plate club, and if you ate, then you got love, and whatever the reason is, that part of us will sabotage us when we're older, because the minute we start to feel sad or feel lonely, we start to eat to fill that void. Now, that part of us doesn't know any differently, and that part of us is exhausted doing it because it's not a natural state. It's filling a void. Now, when you talk to that part and heal it, and then say, what is it that would give you joy instead? What would you like to do instead of eat? Oh my gosh, I would love to read. I want to exercise more. I want to write a book. I want to take that time and do other things. That's when you can step in because your higher self has the answers to everything. We always are taught, and this is where I have issue in schools, is that the way school is structured, we are taught to learn by getting the approval of someone and getting a grade. So the more we can repeat back what the teacher tells us, the better the grade we get. So we don't learn to really learn and go inward and discover who we are. The idea of then releasing all these old belief systems and then allowing that part of us to blossom, because all of us have tremendous skills and talents. And I will tell you that if someone told me when I was younger, I had no idea I'd be doing this at 19, 20 years old. When I went to college, I went into the fashion industry. I was a business major. I had no clue as to hypnosis or any of that. So I had to evolve into that. I realized that going into that dark night of the soul, collapsing, not wanting to be here, was the greatest gift I had ever been given. And I went on to travel for 25 years, having the most amazing experiences, learning from all of these amazing teachers in Peru and Costa Rica and Italy and Canada and just all around the world. And I'm so grateful for that experience. And if I hadn't done that, if I had just medicated myself and not dealt with any of it, I wouldn't have done the deep dive that I needed to do.
I think, and what would you say, like, if you wanted to tell everyone just something to motivate them to face their fears and their lies, their beliefs that really are holding them back? Because we all get stuck at different
Right.
places. So
Yeah. So the key is desire first, right? Because if you don't have the desire to change, you're not going to change. If you are being told that you need to change from others and it's not there, it's not going to happen. And I've had to tell people that I won't work with them anymore until they're ready, because it's a waste of time and money for both of us. So once you have the desire, then you have to be willing to look at your shadow. You need to be willing to look at that. And once you do, and you release it, you realize how light you can be and how joyful life can be. And when you do that, that's when when you can truly step into your truth. And was I scared? I still get scared. Even though I'm a professional speaker, when I have to get up on a stage, I have to take a few deep breaths. I have to, like, did I remember everything? Is technology going to work? There's always stuff. But I have to say that I wouldn't have my life any other way. And because of those traumas and wounds and everything that I went through, it's made me who I am. And to release it and forgive and be at peace is the greatest thing you can do for yourself.
I love everything you said. And you actually gave us an example of your own life, how you did that and what happened because of it. Because if otherwise, I hate to say it, we see lots of people who won't look at the truth of their life, and they will live in that stuck position most of their life and be unhappy because they never really found out who they truly were. Sometimes it's just easier to stay in that family crap, right?
It is. I had a business partner who said to me one day, she's like, I'm never going to work on myself. I said, why? She said, because you cry too much. When I first started doing the work, I was having a breakdown and I was releasing all of this stuff, and she didn't want to feel. And I looked at her and I said, God doesn't let you get away with it. So you can either have it on your terms or on God's terms. And
Yes.
God's terms are not always fun.
They're never fun. Are you kidding?
They're never
Never
fun.
fun, no
It's
matter
the
what. And I
2x4.
always say, be very careful what you ask for because you're going to get it, but it's not going to be in the way that you think. So, you know how you want to develop gifts and skills and, have this experience. It's like, oh, great. I'm so sorry
With
I asked.
with ease and grace. With ease and grace. That was one of my teachers said to me, whenever you ask, end it with ease and grace.
Okay. So what does that mean to you?
So you can learn a lesson by getting in a car accident, getting hit by a 2x4, or you can opt to learn it in a less painful way, right? For instance, I was getting messages. I knew I was working too much last year. I was putting in 12, 14 hours. I wasn't getting enough sleep. So what does God do? I'm on a ski slope on a Monday, no one around me. And what happens? I fall out of nowhere. I hit some ice, fractured 2 bones in my knee, and got a concussion.
Oh
Guess
man.
what, Lisa? You need to slow down.
I know. Oh yeah, I know. I've actually heard of one person said, she said that how did she say it? I need some time off, or she said, she said it in such a way that it set it up to not to have that time, but not in a good way. Like
No.
the bad thing happened so she could have it. So she said, I'm never going to say it that way again. So we need to be careful with what we say. I just wanted to tell you that some of the people said, Lisa, I love your book. I believe that the lives we live based upon programming lead us to addictions and other disasters. Hi, Lisa. Laura, I love you so much. Love for your books. Talking to Lisa. 100% agree with you, Lisa. Absolutely adore you. So that was very nice of people. You are an amazing person. You and I think a lot alike so much. So it's very easy to talk to you. Thanks for doing the interview.
Thank you so much for having me. I really love talking to you. I just love hanging out with you. Forget that this was a show.
That's right. Just forget that part. You're an easy person to talk to. Like some people are harder to get to know and you're not. You're not at all.
Well,
Okay, where does everybody find you so they can get some help?
well, if you can spell my name, you can find me on lisaschermerhorncoaching.com. You can also get me on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. I have some videos on YouTube as Lisa Schermerhorn. And you can email me. I'm always happy to just have a conversation to find out if what I do is right for them or if they want to do their why. It's a 10-minute discovery in an hour. And I'm also selling gift certificates, 10% off right now. You can give them as gifts for your loved ones. It's a really cool thing to learn.
Nice. That is fantastic. So Lisa Schermerhorn, is that right? Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Okay. And that's coaching.com and then everywhere under your name, pretty much.
Yes, you might see it under Lisa Friedman Schermerhorn, Friedman.
Okay.
But yeah, Lisa Schermerhorn.
And you give great talks. And I don't know if do you have a YouTube or Rumble channel that they can follow?
I do. I have a Rumble channel now. I'm on the Grassroots Warrior Network.
Okay.
And my show is called Where Truth Lies.
Oh yeah, you got to share that.
Yep. And then I also have, what I did was because it's hard to find all of my talks on there. So I put them all on a separate Rumble channel, Where Truth Lies. And I have about 40 videos and
Oh, wow.
on there, and you can find me there. Please like and share because I'm trying to build my following on that. And I've got some really amazing interviews with some really extraordinary people.
You really, really do. I highly recommend you guys going and watching her videos for sure. So thanks again. I know we'll talk again soon. And if we don't talk before Christmas, I hope you have a wonderful holiday with your family and you have a great time, whatever you're gonna do.
Thank you. And wishing you all a very Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays.
I'm gonna do one thing that's very important, you guys. I have to stop the recording first. Okay. And thanks everybody. And Lisa, if you need to go, go ahead.
Oh, it's still recording. I don't know.
It is recording. Where is the recording? Because it doesn't say, oh, stop recording.